Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about something I built for exactly the kind of practitioner who listens to this show. My Practice Accelerator is now open. I'm so excited. It opened on June 1st. It is the membership I wish I'd had when I was figuring out things like flat fees or pricing my services. Things like how to actually hire and fire, all the things that we need to know to run a practice instead of letting it run me. In the membership, every month you get the systems, the strategy, and the room full of lawyers and mediators and other professionals who are building the same way you are. This is the work we talk about on the podcast, made practical and made for you to use this week. If you want to find out more, go to the website, susaneguthrie.com, and choose the accelerator button up at the top on the upper right-hand side. That's susaneguthrie.com. Come build with us in the accelerator. Listeners, I want to share two conversations that I had recently. In one, a document had been circulated to a professional working group that I'm part of, and one colleague had no substantive concerns about the content of this document. Her issue was something different entirely. She essentially said, "This reads like AI wrote it, and because of that, it feels less professional. If we want this document to be taken seriously, it should be rewritten so it doesn't sound AI generated." I found that interesting. Then, almost immediately after I saw that email, I had a very different conversation. A colleague had interviewed a promising candidate, someone they were excited and thought were going to be perfect for the position. Afterward, the candidate sent an email, but it was a poorly written follow-up. And my colleague's reaction was not simply disappointment. It was, if they couldn't even use AI to improve a basic follow-up email, I don't want them working for me. So same technology, completely opposite conclusions. So who's right? Because I think that may be one of the most important professional questions of our moment. Welcome to the Practice Playbook podcast, your go-to resource for legal professionals, mediators, and entrepreneurial experts building modern, profitable, and purpose-driven businesses. I'm your host, Susan Guthrie, attorney, mediator, and #1 best-selling author with over 35 years of experience. I'm a former chair of the ABA section of dispute resolution, and I've helped thousands of professionals build practices they love through my books, coaching, and training programs. Each week, I'll bring you real-world strategies, mindset shifts, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you grow with clarity, confidence, and impact. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Practice Playbook podcast, where I talk about building smarter, stronger, and more sustainable professional practices. I'm Susan Guthrie, and today it's just you and me again because I'm building on last week's solo episode, AI Just Changed Again. Here's what actually matters. And in that episode, I talked about the reality that AI is no longer simply a novelty or a productivity hack. It is becoming part of the infrastructure of modern professional practice. And honestly, whether we like it or not, it is already changing the competitive landscape. Today, I want to move the conversation in a more nuanced and frankly more important direction. Because once we accept that AI is here and increasingly embedded in how work gets done, the real question becomes this: what does professionalism look like now? What does competence look like? What does sound judgment look like? Because I think we are living through one of those rare transition moments where the professional rules are being rewritten in real time. And that makes people uncomfortable, understandably so. So let's talk about it. Those two conversations have really stayed with me because they capture the exact tension I think so many professionals are feeling right now. For decades, professionalism often looked like effort. Doing the work yourself, drafting from scratch, researching manually, producing polished output entirely through your own labor and expertise. And let me be clear, there is something admirable about craftsmanship. There is something deeply valuable about expertise, discipline, and thoughtful professional work. But technological transitions have a way of forcing us to re-examine old assumptions. And that is exactly what is happening now. Because one school of thought says that if AI touched your work, somehow the work is diminished, you're cheating or something, it's less authentic, less thoughtful, less credible, less professional. And then there's another school of thought that says something very different. That is that failing to use available tools intelligently, especially tools that could materially improve communication, efficiency, or outcomes, reflects poor judgment. And that is a remarkable divide. And I think the truth is that both perspectives are touching on something real, but actually neither one is asking the right question. Because in my view, the issue is not whether AI was used. The issue is whether judgment was used. That is the real conversation. Because yes, we have all seen bad AI output. The awkward writing, all those M dashes and emojis, the generic language, the very scary hallucinated citations and made-up authority, the polished nonsense, right? We've all seen it. And increasingly, there's that unmistakable AI smell that signals something was generated, but never truly refined. Because if someone takes raw AI output, glances at it, and sends it out into the world under their professional name, that is absolutely a problem. But not because AI was involved. It's because their judgment was absent. And that distinction matters enormously. I'm going to say something that might be slightly provocative here. I do not believe that blanket AI shaming has a particularly long shelf life. Because increasingly, intelligent, thoughtful, high-performing professionals are using AI in meaningful ways. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack the expertise. It's because they understand leverage. And I think we need to be very careful not to confuse inefficiency with virtue. That may make some people uncomfortable, but it is worth saying in this moment. If a professional has access to tools that can help them think more clearly, structure ideas more effectively, research more efficiently, or improve the client experience, why would intelligent use of those tools automatically be suspect? The better question is not, did you use AI? The better question is, did you use it well? That is a far more sophisticated standard. And let me be equally clear, using AI well is not the same thing as outsourcing your thinking. AI is not judgment. AI is not maintaining your ethical responsibilities. AI is not discernment. It is not wisdom. And it is certainly not emotional intelligence. Those all remain deeply human functions, which means the modern professional standard is not getting easier with the use of AI. It's actually getting more demanding because now the expectation is not simply domain expertise. It is domain expertise plus technological judgment. This is a whole new skill set that we need to learn. We need to know when AI helps. We need to know when it hurts. Knowing when confidentiality makes it inappropriate. Knowing when emotional nuance matters more than efficiency. Knowing when accuracy demands rigorous human verification. You have heard me say before, verification is now a core competency. We need to know when the tool creates risk rather than value, or risk that outweighs value. That is sophisticated professionalism. And honestly, I think that's where the conversation should be, not fear and not blind enthusiasm. So neither end of the spectrum of AI, but judgment. Let's go back to that hiring example from the story at the beginning. Was that colleague right to view a poorly written follow-up email and perhaps the failure to use available tools to improve it a red flag? Were they right to see that as a red flag? Maybe. Because what they may actually have been evaluating was not simply writing quality. They may have been evaluating initiative, adaptability, resourcefulness, professional awareness, and yes, judgment. Those are legitimate professional qualities. Now let's look at the working group comment. Was that person wrong? The person who felt that it sounded like AI and therefore was less than? Not necessarily. If the document genuinely felt generic, flat, unrefined, or disconnected, right, from authentic expertise, then the critique may have been entirely valid. Again, we are talking about in both examples the exact same technology, different application of judgment. And that is why the technology itself is not the issue. We have to stop looking at AI as the issue. It is the professional behind the technology, the human using the technology. And if you listen to last week's episode, and I highly recommend that you do because the two of them are meant to go together, last week and this week. But if you listened, you know I talked about the divide between strategic adopters and dabblers in AI. And this is where that distinction becomes even more important. Dabblers use AI tools casually, right? They pick them up like a toy, they play with them, but they're not putting the same thought and care into them that strategic professionals do, because strategic professionals apply judgment. They use their judgment, right? They look at what the output is and they make sure it's correct and appropriate. And that's the difference. And I suspect that this transition period that we are in right now is not going to last forever. My prediction is that AI use itself will become increasingly normalized. It'll probably be quiet and it will happen somewhat gradually, but it's going to be a part of professional workflows before you know it. It absolutely is. And when that happens, the differentiator is not going to be whether AI touched that work, right? It's going to be quality. It's going to be the voice, the standards, the accuracy, trustworthiness, and the discernment. That's where reputations will be built or damaged. And let's not forget, so importantly, the client side of this. Because whether clients explicitly ask about AI or not, their expectations are changing. Clients increasingly expect responsiveness. They want your efficiency and clarity. They expect organization, professional polish. They want thoughtful communication, and most importantly, a smooth experience. If responsible AI use helps support that, I don't see it as inherently problematic. I see it as intelligent service delivery. But let me add a very important qualifier here. Not every workflow should involve AI because not every task benefits from it. And not every one of our client matters is appropriate for AI. Not every prompt is going to be ethical. And that's why your judgment matters. But you need to understand these tools to understand where your judgment applies to how they are used. You can apply your professional judgment to the outputs, but how they're used, you need to understand the tools. So here's the filter I think modern professionals increasingly need to ask. Is this accurate? Is this ethical? Is confidentiality being protected? Does this output reflect my standards? And does it sound like me? Ask yourself, would I stand behind this? Would I defend it professionally? If the answer to any of those is no, stop. That is your professionalism coming to the fore. It's not blind rejection nor blind adoption. It is disciplined judgment, and that is the future. Honestly, I think that should be reassuring to all of us because while tools will change, our capabilities will evolve. And platforms will come and go. But one thing remains true. Your judgment is one of your most valuable professional assets. And that does not get outsourced. It can't. That will get elevated because you're going to have to flex that muscle more when using AI tools. Because I always want the episodes to be practical for you, I created a companion resource. It's called the Professional Judgment AI Check. It contains a practical framework to help you evaluate AI-assisted workflows before they ever reach a client, a colleague, or a public audience. And Accelerator members, you know, I've taken it much deeper with an expanded implementation framework specifically for modern professional practice. Look for that in the Accelerator community. All right, listeners, now before we close, I want to pull out a few golden nuggets to round this up. These are quick ones because this is an episode that's really about mindset. It's about how you look at using these tools. Number one, AI use is not a character flaw, but poor judgment might be. Golden nugget number two, blind rejection is not a strategy. Let me say it again. Blind rejection of artificial intelligence is not a strategy, but blind adoption is not a strategy either. Number three, what it means to be a professional exhibiting professionalism is evolving. The standard is not, did you do this manually? It is increasingly going to be, did you exercise sound judgment? That means that number four, AI is not your competitive advantage, your judgment is. And five, the issue is not whether AI touched the work. The issue is whether a thoughtful professional stands behind it. This is really important to understand in a very small microcosm of a way. Think about email. I was around in that time when we used to dictate a letter to a client or to a colleague, and then an assistant would type it up, bring all that correspondence in at the end of the day. I would sign that stack with my beautiful flourish of a signature and my nice blue pen. I loved my blue fountain pen. And those would all then get folded up, taken to the post office, where I would then sit and wait for about 5 to 10 days for a response. And then, you know where I'm going with this. Email, right? Email, instant communication, the ability for instant response. And I remember my senior partner at the time when emails started to happen, saying that really over his dead body, were we professionals going to use email to communicate to clients and to colleagues? How long do you think that lasted? How long do you think once clients realized they could get immediate responses and get to you immediately, they've moved on to text, guys? People want that immediate response. Nobody wants to wait for something in the mail anymore. My God, I had to send a graduation card the other day. I had to go to the store to buy stamps. The store gave me a book of stamps. I was at Walgreens. I didn't even know if they sold stamps, but they gave me a book of stamps that was Christmas themed because that's how long they'd been sitting in the drawer. It's June. They gave me Christmas stamps. It didn't matter. They were the forever stamps. But what I'm trying to say to you all is we've been here before. This is bigger than email, but email was big at that time. Texting was big. Using your phone as a computer, that was big. This is even bigger. So start honing your judgment muscle. That's going to be your differentiator. Listeners, if you missed last week's companion episode, AI just changed again. Here's what actually matters. I highly recommend listening because these two conversations truly do belong together. And if today's episode resonated with you, be sure to grab that free professional judgment AI checklist. It's linked in the show notes, or you can go to the website at susaneguthrie.com. Just go to the podcasts page. Thank you, as always, for spending this time with me, and I'll see you next time on the Practice Playbook podcast. Thanks so much for listening to the Practice Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love it if you'd take a moment to leave a review, follow the show, or share it with a colleague who's ready to build the practice of their dreams. If you want more support and tools like the ones you heard today, join the waitlist for the Practice Accelerator, my brand new subscription program packed with resources to help you grow smarter. You can find the link in the show notes or visit susaneguthrie.com to learn more. Until next time, stay focused, stay intentional, and remember, success starts with the right playbook.